Thank you for joining me again today. I have a wonderful man for you to guest, and if you are struggling with anything cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury, or your loved ones are, then this is something that you need to tune into. Before we head over to the show with Dr. Marvin, please check out what we do at lisatamati.com. And please subscribe on our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the show. Lisa Tamati here, and I have Dr. Marvin Berman with me. Wonderful to have you, Doctor. Fantastic to have you with me. Excited for this conversation.
Thanks, Lisa. It's great to be here. Hello, everybody.
So, Dr. Marvin is going to be sharing with us some incredible breakthroughs in neurocognitive and red light therapy, basically. But Dr. Berman, can you give us a bit of a background as to how you got here? Because you were a psychologist first and got into this field a little bit later. So maybe give us a little bit of background.
Sure thing. I started out in psychotherapy with a body-centered orientation. I trained in the tradition of a psychoanalyst called Wilhelm Reich, who some people are familiar with. He was an early contemporary of Freud and was running the psychoanalytic clinic in Vienna and then in Berlin. And he was the one who discovered that when people have an insight and kind of reconnect with the unconscious conflict that they were experiencing that was causing their symptoms, he found that there was an actual increase in the amount of electrical voltage passing across certain muscle groups. And so when he saw that there was an actual biophysical change that directly correlated with the psychological insight that people were achieving through psychotherapy, he understood that the resolution of psychological conflicts had to incorporate a body component that had to do with the releasing of chronic muscular tension. So I trained in that branch of the approach, and in the US, that approach was called bioenergetic analysis, and it was developed by Alexander Lowen and John Parakis back in the 60s, and well, actually 50s. But Dr. Lowen wrote a book called The Physical Dynamics of Character Structure, where he laid out how the mind and body connection really went together. So all of the contemporary mind-body integration, somatic psychotherapies are all basically leaning on that older tradition of psychodynamically oriented, body-centered psychotherapy. So that was where I came from. What happened is that while I was providing service to the clients that I was working with, one day a guy said, you know, I'm feeling much better, but sometimes things don't click. And he did this. And I said, what does that mean? What's this mean in English? He said, oh, well, you know, sometimes I have to read things a couple of times, and sometimes the letters move around on the page. And, you know, it's annoying. And I said, in an offhanded way, I said, what, you got hit in the head? And he looked at me and said, you mean like a car accident? No, I never had a car accident. So then I had to sit back and go, wait a minute, that's not what I asked you. Did you ever get hit in the head? Oh, Johnny, you know, hit me with a baseball bat. I fell down the basement steps when I was 3. I hit a brick wall with my bicycle when I was 12, and I went, oh my God, you're not neurotic. You're brain injured.
Amen.
Like you really got hurt. Like
Yeah.
you really got hurt. So that's when I realized that there's a different level of analysis and intervention that was needed. So that's when I discovered biofeedback and what's called now neurofeedback. And from that, I saw, as my mom and my grandmother started developing memory issues, I started looking into neurology's data on dementia. And what I found was many, many, many studies showing that as people progress in dementia, the electrical activity in their brain follows a very predictable pattern. Wow. The slower brain wave amplitudes increase, and the faster brainwave amplitudes decrease. So then I went, okay, so then now that you know that, what do you do? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. And he just kept doing the same studies over and over. And I was like, what the heck? Oh, right. There's no pill.
You can't patent the, yeah, there's no pill that will
There's
fix
no
that.
pill. So then it was like, okay. So then I started looking at biofeedback and going, wait a minute. There's a whole like 30 or 40 years worth of literature showing that people with seizure disorders like epilepsy were able to learn how to control their symptoms and eliminate seizures doing brainwave biofeedback.
Wow.
And what were they doing? They were training down the slow waves and they were training up the mid-range brainwaves called sensory motor rhythm, or 14 hertz.
Wow.
And the better people got at that, the less seizures they had.
Wow.
So I went, well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't that work with dementia? So that's when we did a study and we showed that people who learned how to do that, who could learn how to decrease the slow and increase the faster waves, they did in fact change the slope of their memory problems from that to that. So they got better.
Yep.
We didn't cure Alzheimer's. You know what I mean? It's not
Yep.
it's not the cure.
But
It's
you
not the cure for the
slowed it.
underlying.
Yeah,
Right. We changed the
underlying
slope.
pathology. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's great, but now what? And in the middle of that study, one of the husbands of one of the people that I was working with doing biofeedback sent me an article from the Daily Mail of all things, right? And he was a hardcore agricultural biochemist. Just show me the data. Don't give me any garbage. I don't want to hear it. Just show me the data. It's all about the science, right? He's sending me an article from the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Anyway, I realized once I got to the article that it wasn't really an article in the Daily Mail. It was an article about a paper published in the British Journal of Neuroscience. Oh, okay, fine. So then I read the journal article, and it was, UK researchers reverse dementia using infrared light. It was an animal study.
That Dr. Paul Chazot.
Chazot.
Yeah.
It was Chazot, Anisur, and Dr. Gordon Dougal. So I went and read all the papers. I read the references, and I went back to the guy and I said, the science is solid. I'm finding it hard to believe, but the science and the people who are doing this are serious people. So it's no joke. It's not a joke. I said, do you want me to go get you one for your wife? And he, being the sort of person he was, said, well, see if they'll come here. Which means he had a lot of zeros after his name.
Right.
So I called up Dr. Dougal and said, hey, you don't know me, but what would it take to get your gizmo to come
here,
and put it on this lady? 6 weeks later, we were in Villanova, Pennsylvania, putting the helmet on this lady. 2.5 weeks of twice a day, 6 minutes later, my research assistant comes into the office. She does the morning treatment and I was doing the afternoon because they lived about 15 minutes from my office. She comes into the office in tears. Oh, what's the matter? Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. She got into such an argument with her husband. An argument? Oh God, they were yelling at each other, and what happened? Oh, she was telling him, where do you get off making plans to go see our son in Oregon without, making me aware and I have other things that I need to do. And I wait. Did all those words come out of her mouth at once? And she's like, oh yeah, they were yelling back and forth. I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden the phone rings. Hello? It's the husband. Oh my God, I can't believe it. She was so pissed. I got my wife back. Flick.
Love it. I got my wife back. She's grumpy again. Be careful what you wish for.
But I mean,
fabulous.
Yeah. But
fabulous.
she was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia.
Wow.
When I
Not
started
talking.
working with her, she wasn't talking.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
And it was like, oh, right. The light provided the missing level of energy, the
Exactly.
resource
Yep.
that the biofeedback was only able to marginally have an effect on because there wasn't enough energy in the system.
Yes. Yeah. Which makes sense.
I was like, oh, it's not one or the other, it's
It's
both.
both. Yep. Yeah.
So that was it. That was
That
the
was your start. And now what are we 15 something
we
years later or something?
yeah, so that was 2008.
Yep. So we're 16, 17 years.
So
Wow.
so this was not the device that we used, but it was this is the version, the model after the model that we used.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you can see it's got a lot of diodes,
So for
and it has
people,
diodes that go in the front, go in your eyes.
it's a very
They go in front of
sexy
your eyes.
looking helmet.
Oh yeah,
So
really sexy.
people
I tell
on the podcast,
I
you have
tell
to go watch
people,
the
yeah,
video.
I tell people it's Darth Vader meets Doctor Who.
That's a good one. Hey, but hey, whatever works, like fashion's second, not first. And you've now got
So
fancier helmets and stuff. Let me just dig down on a couple of those
sure,
things,
sure,
because I've heard you talk about the three-legged stool, and this is basically what you're getting to now, is that you sort of started off in this neurofeedback, which for people like
right,
listening, so this is where you can control. And I've heard you say the analogy that people can actually, well, not analogy, example, that people can actually start to control their temperature when they focus on it. So if you use a thermometer,
right,
you can actually start controlling your body's temperature. And we know
right,
from, say, doing breath work and things that we can control our biology. I do it every morning when I'm doing breath work and things. So to a certain
exactly,
degree, we're not completely on that involuntary, and we can actually have it. So that's the neurofeedback. And there is things called EEGs, which we'll get into, which is that part of being able to understand what brain waves are going on where and where the deficits may
right,
lie. And then you've
yeah,
made this leap, and this is quite fascinating for you to have made and connected all these dots, made this leap over into the red light therapy. Near infrared light therapy is actually a way to actually manipulate that. So using the EEG with the red light therapy. And then the
right,
third leg of the stool, which you talk about as well, is the functional medicine side, which is,
mhm,
doing your testing. Have you got Lyme disease? Have you got mold? Have you got some toxicity happening? And that needs to go in conjunction with this whole piece. And
right,
I love this approach. I mean, Marvin, a little bit my backstory with my mum,
sure,
and
sure,
my listeners know it ad nauseum. But she and I have done everything known to man to save her life, and bringing her back from a brain that was massively impacted after aneurysm and stroke with hardly any higher
sure,
function, to having a driver's license in 2.5 years and full, mobility, and wrote a book about that. And I had Dr. Lou Lim's devices at that time,
hmm
the near
hmm
infrared, the stuff that was available at that point. Also did hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I'm sitting in my clinic here at the moment with a hyperbaric chamber. Is a big part of that. And that's, again, blood flow, stem cell production, reduction in inflammation, all of these important
killing cancer cells.
killing cancer cells, because she got that later on as well, cancer. And I've seen the power of this. And what makes me passionate about speaking to you today is that there are
Hmm
millions and millions and millions of people with Alzheimer's, traumatic brain injury, Parkinson's
Parkinson's,
disease,
right, right.
all of these
I
neurodegenerative, and they think there's
yeah,
nothing they can do except take a drug on occasion, which have been
right.
a disaster. If we look into the Alzheimer's research and the trying to get rid of the amyloid beta plaques, that's billions of dollars being spent in the wrong direction, basically. So yeah, I'll let
Right.
you come to word with comments on all of that.
Well, it's just that, we we're in a time where, you know, medicine has been taken over by the surgeons and the drug companies, and that happened here in the States back in the early 1900s. And here in Philadelphia, I mean, there were 2 homeopathic hospitals that were the main hospitals in Philadelphia in the turn of the century. Homeopathy was the main form of medicine during the entire Civil War.
Wow.
So, I mean, that whole thing changed when the surgeons and the pharmaceutical companies teamed up to lobby against homeopathy and take over the whole medical profession.
Yep.
So that really changed a lot of things. So the biological mechanisms were always addressed by changing the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the brain, people were trying to change neuronal activity by changing the chemistry, the neurotransmitters themselves. However, every neuron is an electrochemical system, right? Because there's electricity that goes down the neuron and causes the release of the neurotransmitters that get picked up by the receptors, and then that starts another transmission, another electrical impulse. So it's an electrochemical system that every neuron really represents. Well, that means that if you change the electricity, you change the chemistry.
Exactly.
If you change the chemistry, you change the electricity. But the chemistry was the part that had the business model that allowed people to think in terms. And so there we are. But let's understand that the pharmaceutical industry is made up of very, very smart people. And they understand that principle. And so companies like GSK and others have put billions of dollars into electroceutical research. I mean, they're taking this all very seriously. So it's not a battle. That's really a misunderstanding. It's just that, like the insurance companies, you have to reach a certain level of efficacy with a certain number of people before an insurance company is going to take you seriously.
Yeah.
And it's not 100 or 50 or 200, it's tens of thousands of people. Because in Philadelphia, you know, Philadelphia's Blue Cross has 18 million people under contract.
Wow.
You can't go to talk to them about, oh, I got efficacy with 100 people.
With 100 people.
It doesn't work. So we have to raise the level of evidence, and that's what Quiet Mind Foundation is really about doing, is getting clinicians and other people to start using these tools and collecting the data and publishing on it, so that we can get aggregated numbers of subjects using these technologies. Then you can go to the Congress, then you can go to the APA, then you can go to the drug companies, and you can go to the government, to Health and Human Services, and say, hey, look, maybe
Hundreds
if
of
you
thousands.
did, and if you did neurofeedback and photobiomodulation with people with ALS or Alzheimer's, maybe you could slow the rate of development of symptoms by 1%, right? If you,
you've got to be
amount of
conservative
and the amount of money,
the
amount of money, it's like 1%. If you slow the rate of people developing dementia, Alzheimer's, by 1% a year, that's worth $10 billion.
Holy crap! Really? That's a lot.
Yeah. So for every percent you can slow the onset, it's billions and billions and billions. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And so you think they will eventually listen to this? I mean, it's a snowball.
They will. What we say here in the neighborhood is money talks and BS walks.
I like it. And so this, like I've had Dr. Dale Bredesen on the show as well, and he talks about the 36 holes in the roof, and that we need a systems approach, that it's an energy deficit basically in the brain that's causing it. So one intervention is not the way to approach it. We need a systems approach. And I like that. And I mean, that's the way I intuitively did it with my mother without having the years of research that you guys have had, but tapping into the research from people like Dr. Bredesen and utilizing what I could. And I've seen the proof. So I know that the brain can go from being like mush, like
Right.
hardly any higher function, back to fully functioning, then to be hit with mum's had more than 24 concussions because she had to learn to walk again, and she has normotensive hydrocephalus, of which I cannot influence because that's in the brain, the water in the brain, and we can't get a stent. And so we're limited with the vestibular, so she's going to fall on occasion, which is the biggest risk factor we have, right? But then I've seen her have brain tumors and then go through brain surgery, go back to being completely gone, and then come back. And then I've seen her with UTIs lose her again. I mean, just a month ago, she lost all ability again. And then we got the infection under control. We're doing the daily Dr. Lulim's Violite. We're doing the hyperbaric again. We're doing the everything. And we're going to talk about the Neuradiant 1070, which I'm very keen to get my hands on. And I've seen her come back, and now she's back reading to her grandchildren and happy. And that for those watching on the thing, we're going to get to that, because that thing is going to be, and the neuronic 1070 is going to be very exciting. So I know that when people say to me, "Oh, my wife's been diagnosed with dementia," we're on the decline, and that's it. There's nothing we can do. We can take some drugs to slow it down. And I'm like, no, there is so much, from diet to exercise to lifestyle. Those things are hard because you're trying to get older people to make changes, right, to their things. And so when I came across the whole red light stuff and near infrared and all the photobiomodulation, I was like, well, that's the easiest part of the equation to do. So, I mean, that's probably a bit of a step off point for us to talk about the quiet mind and the neuradiant.
Yeah, well, so the Quiet Mind Foundation did the research on the 1070 technology that Professor Chazot, who's the chairman of pharmacology at Durham University in the UK, and he was the one working with Dr. Dougal, and they developed the animal models and some of the other technology. And then Dr. Dougal asked me to take over the human clinical trials here in the US, where it was easier to get those kind of clinical trials working, because Quiet Mind could do its own research. We could design our own protocols, we could get them approved. We had our own ethics board, so we could manage that process a lot more efficiently. So we did the clinical trials on the Cognitolite, and we did that with our study partners in Texas at Baylor Scott and White Hospital in Temple, Texas. It was Professor Jason Wang and Damir Nizmutinov in the Department of Neurosurgery. And they were very forward-thinking people who really, as healers of the brain, were interested in seeing, how can we help people not need brain surgery? How can we help people recover faster from brain surgery? They were really thinking more systemically, like Dr. Bredesen. And we did a study where we had people take the helmet home. They used it twice a day for 2 months. And we showed that their scores on the mini mental status exam went up on average 4 to 5 points, which meant they went from compromised to, they went from like moderate Alzheimer's to mild cognitive impairment.
Yeah, amazing, which is huge for the quality of life.
And so they were able to function. And there was a subgroup of people in the study who had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And they reported, I mean, it wasn't part of the study, but they reported at the end of the study, less apathy, more involvement in family activities, more expressiveness, more emotional, responsiveness, better gait, better mood, better sleep. All of those Parkinsonian symptoms significantly improved.
Wow.
As well as the dementia. So we knew that we had something really useful. But what I kept trying to tell Dr. Dougal was that because I knew about the neurofeedback, I knew that if we could modify the brain electrical activity at the same time as we were delivering the light, we could have kind of a 2-for-1 effect, that we could modify the brain EEG toward normal while we were actually influencing the health of the brain itself biologically.
Wow.
So that's why I developed the Neuradiant, which has the ability to deliver the same wavelength of light as the Cognito light, but it's significantly lighter and easier and a little sexier looking.
Yeah.
And the other important part is that each quadrant of the helmet can be independently controlled. So we can see, using quantitative EEG measurement, brain mapping, we can then see what kind of differences are there, abnormalities, if you will, in brain electrical activity in the different parts of the brain. We can then pulse the light on the scalp at that location, and it will then influence the brain electrical activity at the same time as the neurons and the mitochondria are absorbing the photons of light and increasing the output of ATP, the important brain chemical for everything. So we knew that we could improve brain health and we could modify brain activity toward normal, literally doing the same thing.
And I had some questions around that, like getting, so for someone who wants to do this, you ideally you'd have an EEG done, and then which is not.
And there are plenty
easy.
of people.
Well,
Oh, there are
here,
plenty of people.
not in New Zealand. I've got a friend, Dr. Elizabeth Harris, who I believe you know.
Yes.
Yes, and she's like 10 miles, 10,000 miles away down the other end of the country.
Oh no.
Yeah. So for someone like my mum, I'm trying to work out, can we use it without an EEG is the question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But we can do it symptomatically. But something you should know, there is a way to get a QEEG system shipped to your house.
Oh, wow. And you don't need to be a clinician.
You open up, you open up the case, you put on the cap, but there's a clinician looking at you over Skype or Zoom.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So they literally can tell you, no, move it over here. Okay, now tighten the strap. Okay, now turn it on. And the whole system is automated.
Wow.
So that as soon as you get the cap properly positioned, the technician can run the whole recording, and that's it.
Oh,
and then
wow.
once it's recorded, they can email me the recording, and I can do the rest.
Oh, wow. So, okay,
Because
we might be able to find someone who will do that.
Yeah, that's it's not inexpensive in the grand scheme of things, but it's not, thousands of dollars to get this done.
Wow. Okay.
And there could be clinicians in Australia and New Zealand who already have these suitcases that they can send around.
Okay, so we have to try to find that, because that would give a next level. Yeah, like for people. Yep. And if we can't get the neurofeedback, because there is only very few people in New Zealand doing neurofeedback, well, as far as I know, but then, I have to talk to Elizabeth. Maybe she knows people.
Well,
I know.
Well, that's another question. That's another question, Lisa. We have a home neurofeedback system that we developed years ago that people can buy for $2,500. And it's a laptop that's pre-configured with all of the software, that the EEG device, the electrodes, everything is in one package, and you just buy it for $2,500. And then one of our staff teaches people how to hook themselves up, because it's only a couple of ear clips and a couple of sticky things on your head wherever they need to go. Then you're doing the neurofeedback in your living room.
Wow. And then you can.
So you can do the neurofeedback right after you use the helmet.
Right.
So the helmet is kind of like the primer for the brain to help improve plasticity. And then you do the neurofeedback in order to actually train very specifically what networks and what areas need to improve. So you can do the whole process yourself at home with some guidance and some supervision with me or,
Yep.
some of the other
One of
people.
the
Yeah,
clinicians.
it's very doable, Lisa. It's very, very doable. We have many,
That's
many people doing home training.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, there's so many people dealing with dementia, and we need to get more, even,
Yep.
people like
Yep.
myself and doing these things so that we all have access. Because if it's just if you have to go to a clinic to use the neuronic, it's not going to happen. We're not going to get the masses.
And not only that, but this is $3,500 or about, right? So there are a lot of people who can't afford $3,500.
Yeah. Yep.
So a friend and colleague of mine who worked with me to set up Neuronic, because I was a co-founder of Neuronic. Neuronic is basically using all of the technology that Quiet Mind developed. Yeah, we basically gave Neuronic all the technology, and now they're marketing it and developing it. And Quiet Mind is continuing the research, because that was one generation of device, and there are now several generations that need to come after that are going to have even greater impact and be more of a closed loop treatment model. But be that as it may, my colleague, Sarah Turner, is now going to be coming out with a device called Cera Thrive, CERA Thrive, and Quiet Mind is going to be promoting that and distributing it here. So Cera Thrive is going to cost under $1,000.
Oh, wow. And that's going to do something similar.
It has a headband that includes 1070 and 3 other wavelengths for front and back stimulation, but it also has an integrated abdominal pad to treat the gut microbiome.
Wow.
So you can do the brain-gut connection at the same time.
Wow. Because I have a infrared and red light device that I have that called FlexBeam, and I use that on my gut and on Mum's gut at nighttime.
But yes,
as well, but it's not connected, like it's separate.
Right. And Adeline Lim, I don't know if Adeline Lim is somebody you know, but Adeline, she's in Malaysia and Indonesia, and Adeline has been promoting the recharger. Sarah was one of the primary people developing the recharger when it first came out.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that got her thinking about the gut-brain connection, because Sarah had worked with me here in Philadelphia on the Neuradian.
Wow. And
then she had already gotten the experience of the recharger. And so now she's put them together in a very elegant way that's much lower cost, and could be used with the neurofeedback exactly the same way as the Neuradian.
Wow.
Or the V-Lite for that matter. The NeuroPro does many of the same things that the Neuradian does. It's $5,000.
Yeah,
but it's it's $5,000 US. So that's a drawback. But now with the Cera Thrive, that can be much, much, much cheaper and have very similar effects. We're going to start doing the clinical trials on the Cera Thrive as soon as they come on the market. They're literally like weeks away from release, and so people can pre-order them actually.
Okay,
I'll send you a link.
We can talk off air
for a discount.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you that later.
We'll talk on air about the different things and what we could possibly do together down here, and
happy to help.
Yeah, well, we have to get people access to them, because we need people and when people hear about red light, I mean, I'm sitting in a red light clinic with a hyperbaric, and I've got a red light panels behind me and stuff, and so I'm a huge fan of red light, but there is so much nuance to the whole infrared. So can you just walk us through a little bit of red light history, and what are the wavelengths, and which wavelengths are you specifically using for brain function?
Sure.
And then the pulse, the fluence, all of that sort of technical stuff.
Well, Okay, I want to keep the technical stuff pretty to a minimum,
Yeah.
but the idea of delivering pulsing, like turning the light on and off, that's what's called frequency. In this world, frequency is the number of times per second the light is being turned on and off. When we talk about wavelength, which is the 1070 or the 810 or the 940 or whatever, those are the points along the electromagnetic spectrum. So they're going from the actual speed of the waves, the electromagnetic waves themselves. How many of those are happening per second? How many up and downs? So that's the faster the wavelength, the closer and closer they are together. And the closer and closer they are together, the deeper they can penetrate.
Yep.
So comparing 800 to 1070, there's a difference in penetration, but there's also a difference in the effect in the brain tissue itself, because 1070 has the distinction of being the peak transmission in water.
Yes.
And we are mostly water. And when we influence the water, we are really influencing the way in which information is being carried throughout the system. Because the water is there, and the information in the water, the structure of the water, influences everything else that it touches. So that's a transmission medium that's different than the blood. It's different than the lymph. It's different than those kind of tissue lipids. It's not the same. It's water, but it carries a very different structure. And there's some good information about that on Sarah's website at sarahthrive.com. But we lectured on it for the advancement of functional medicine, the A4M.
Yep.
About structured water. Jerry Pollack's work. Have you had Dr. Pollack on?
No,
Okay.
I haven't had him
so
on,
it's,
but yeah, no.
Well, that's what we're talking about. So the wavelength is along the electromagnetic spectrum. The frequency is the pulse rate. The power density is the actual joules or the watts of power that are being delivered at the skin. And so the closer you get the light to the skin, the deeper the penetration. So panels have you at a distance, and the greater the distance, the power decreases by the square of the distance.
Yeah.
So it's a significant difference to go from right on the skin to even 2 inches away. It's a significant drop in power. So getting penetration, getting power into the brain, the light into the brain, it's really about how many photons can you get into the brain that are going to hit mitochondria and be absorbed by the mitochondria. The mitochondria have proteins in them. One of them is called cytochrome C oxidase. And that protein can absorb light within a certain waveband, which is the near infrared waveband.
Yep.
So the more times you can hit that protein with the light photons, the more it's going to speed up the production of ATP.
Which is everything in the brain, like, well, everything in the body.
It's a chemical catalyst for everything, right? So we don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to go much further than high school biology to get the importance of stimulating ATP.
Yeah.
And more people are starting to understand how the second largest amount of ATP and neurons in the body are in the gut. So it's the brain and then the gut as far as the most neurons and most ATP. So it's so important to be working those two axes.
Wow. So I've intuitively done that, at least with that.
The recharger is a great way. Another way to get light into the brain, which Dr. Lim was very right about, was intranasal.
Intranasal. Yeah. People on YouTube podcast, go and watch the video again. He's sticking something up his nose.
So you can now deliver 80 milliwatts of 1070 nanometer light directly into your nose, which will then go up into your brain to some degree. But what we're really looking to try with this is to see how much we can influence a reduction in the effects of COVID, because we know that this wavelength of light, it can kill MRSA.
So
we know that it's going to be
antiviral, as well.
It's directly antimicrobial and antiviral. So since
Amazing.
the main access point for COVID is through the nose,
Mm-hmm.
if we can get the light up somebody's nose, we can decrease the infectivity, we can decrease the virulence, and
Wow.
we think we can decrease the long-term neurological injury that people are going to sustain from having had COVID.
Yeah, yeah,
And
which is
one,
huge.
well, it is. And one of the numbers, when you started talking about the millions of people, one of the things that I say in a lot of my lectures is, start thinking about what the number 350 million is.
Yeah.
Like, try and get your mind around what 350 million anything is, right?
Huge.
If you take everybody with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and traumatic brain injury in the world, that's 150 million people. If you then add to that, at the most conservative estimate in the research now, you're somewhere between 10 and 20% of people, regardless of the severity of their COVID infection, are going to develop some degree of neurological injury.
Amazing.
That's 200 million more people.
Mm.
So that's 350 million people who should be doing this and this yesterday.
Yesterday, that need these. And what? So the difference with the cognolite that goes up the nose. So that's going to be
This one,
That's the up the nose nasal one. That's
right?
going to be antiviral in the nose, but still also impacting the blood, because the blood,
It
the
will
whole
stimulate
entire blood supply goes past your nose, up above your
in
nose
in
in 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, and
So if you do this, so if you
yeah,
do this for 20 minutes,
yeah, you're
you've
going to
irradiated your
4
whole body's
times.
blood supply
Wow.
5 times.
Wow. And it's, there's ultraviolet irradiation that they use in ozone, for example. Is that similar?
Different. That's the other end of the spectrum,
That's the blue light end of the spectrum, sort
right?
of the lower end.
And it does not stimulate ATP.
Right. So when we're talking about the ATP and the cytochrome C oxidase, so we have
Right.
in the mitochondria, the electron transport chain, for those listening, you often people have dysfunction in the first 2 to 3 complexes of that mitochondria. And so by going straight to being able to donate electrons to cytochrome C oxidase, we sort of bypass those problematic steps to produce energy. So this is another way of getting food without eating food. Basically, you're having energy production in a way.
Right.
I actually
Very literally, because the photons of energy are real
real
packets of
energy.
food.
Yeah, and
when
we eat a plant or something, we're actually breaking it down and doing the process, and we're actually helping, bypass all of that and get to especially for people who have, low coenzyme Q10 and low, other things in that cause mitochondrial dysfunction. I had a bit of a curveball question for you, because I've been studying this lately and I've actually added it into Mum's protocol.
Before you go there, one of the things you said before about the 36 holes in the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I have a chart showing all 36 holes in the roof plus all the others in the literature that contribute to the height. So what I then did was put another column next to that and showed the citations in the peer-reviewed literature for how photobiomodulation addresses all of them but 2.
Yep. Wow. And so the 36, there's a lot and I've gone through that list and I've been, oh, wow, it does that and it does this and it does this as well. And, all the interleukins that it down regulates and TGF betas and goodness knows whatever it does are all covered by photobiomodulation. So this is
all but 1 or 2, right? All
Yeah.
but 2. And there's now a compound that's being marketed in the US that we're going to start looking at. It's called Neurella, and it contains many of the compounds that the recode protocol is promoting.
Wow.
So instead of having to take lots and lots of things, you might be able to take just 2 of something twice a day. So we're looking into that now.
Oh, share if you don't mind that.
I will. No,
info.
once we get some data, some data, I'll be happy to share. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was developed by a colleague of mine, Dr. John Fellis. He's a neurologist here in New Jersey. Yeah, it's a very interesting compound. this probably won't be the last time we ever talk.
No, this definitely won't be. Well, I need your help with mum for starters. But
Happy to help.
also for other people. But this I had a curveball for you. So
Sure.
recently mum's been having recurrent UTIs. And so this put something called methylene blue on my radar. And I've
Yep.
then came across the work of Dr. Francisco Gonzalez Lima.
Gonzalez Lima. He was the
Yeah.
other person who was studying 1064.
Oh, yes, of course he is.
It
Of
was
course he is.
Francisco and me. That was it.
Wow, I want to. I need an
Yeah,
intro because I need him on the show. So methylene blue. Can we do that?
sure.
Yeah, because I've been trying to reach out to him, but
Yeah,
methylene blue is that yeah. Well, tell
it's
me a little
certainly
bit about.
something to include. It's certainly something to include. And don't go to the fish tank store and
No,
try
no,
it.
no.
No,
USP
don't do
only.
that.
No, but I've seen in the last 2 weeks since I've had mum on methylene blue, or 3 weeks now, she has gone because we had this terrible UTI and the broken hip and
Sure,
operations and so
sure.
on. And so we lost her, and since I put the methylene blue in, and I've continued the red light,
Yep,
she's now like fully back to where we were baseline,
right.
which I'm
Yep.
stoked about because I lost my mum again, right? I lost her, and then we've brought her back again, and she's now reading to her grandchildren and can
It's
read,
wonderful.
like
Yeah, yeah.
it's wonderful. And so I'm excited about methylene blue, and that's sort of working in a similar way, going to the cytochrome C oxidase, bypassing that electron transport chain issues, as well as working
That's
on
right.
the red blood cell and oxygenation and so on.
Right.
So you start piling these things on top of each other in this.
Preferably with some degree of understanding about what comes before what and how much.
Yes.
And I mean,
Yep.
that's where we're just at the very beginnings of
Yeah.
understanding, is 810, for instance, is
Yes.
810 significantly better at enhancing cell viability
Uh-huh.
and survival, whereas 1070 is better at promoting neurogenesis and synaptogenesis. Is
Uh-huh.
that really true?
Yeah.
There's evidence that shows that that might be the case. Well,
Right.
okay, then why not make the helmet
With
have
both.
both wavelengths in it
Yeah.
and have an intelligent AI methodology that allows you to modulate which wavelength is going to be most useful at what time, at what spot, for how long.
Yeah. This is what you're
That's what
aiming for, isn't it? In your
that's what
next
we're
part of
doing.
your is to get the
Yep,
EEG inside the helmet and give it in real
yep,
time so that you'll be able the device will actually be able to work out, oh, their brainwave frequency on this side is not doing what it
right.
should be. So we'll put more over here and we'll do less here and we'll in real time. That's going to
That's
be
it.
game changing.
That's it.
But currently, if people can't get the EEG and they buy a neuronic or the new radiant
Yeah, they can come to us.
1070, and
Yeah, they
they
can
can
come to
still
us
use it, like because with the Baylor Scott
with consultation.
with consultation, yeah. So you could do it without the EEG with consultation, yeah.
Sure.
If we
Oh yeah,
can't
I
get
mean,
these,
I would highly recommend people get a QEEG if at all possible.
yep,
And
if at all
we
possible,
can work on getting more people to do that. We can get more people to do it. It's just an incentive, figuring out the right incentive and getting them to use it,
yeah. So
because
and
it's
you
not
putting
expensive to do.
yeah, once you've got the device and yeah.
It's not
And
that
from a
expensive.
clinician, like because there's lots of doctors and clinicians who listen to my show, if there are doctors and
Great.
clinicians that want to include this in their practice,
I would
how
be, I mean, that's what Quiet Mind, that's the foundation's, part of the foundation's mission is to enhance clinical education and transfer these technologies and transfer this knowledge into practice. So
wonderful.
we're consulting with lots of different practices who are integrating photobiomodulation and or neurofeedback into what they're doing. And we're doing outcome analysis and showing that when you combine these two things, you get better results than if you don't.
Yeah.
If you include these kind of technologies with medication in psychotherapy, in psychiatric clinics. If you include these technologies, you get better outcomes, clinical
Yep.
outcomes.
Yep. Yep. And with
That-
functional medicine as well, if you add into that some really good testing to see, heavy metals, omega-3
Well,
index,
y-
organic acids,
well,
all of
neuronic,
that.
I mean, yeah, the Neuradiant is an affiliate with Dr. Bredesen. So
Yes. Yep.
Neuronic is an affiliate, and Quiet Mind is also an affiliate with the Apollo Health, which is Dr. Bredesen's group. So people who are doing the recode coaching can acquire at a discount. They can acquire the Neuronic technology, and I'm providing the Radiant technology directly through Quiet Mind. It's not going to be a big benefit for people outside the U.S., but anybody in the U.S., we can provide a 501, because we're a 501c3 nonprofit, so people can donate the cost of the technology, right? And we can send them a donation letter less the cost of the device.
Wow.
So people can write off the cost of a significant portion of the device and the consultation simply by doing it as a donation to the Quiet Mind Foundation Research Fund.
Wow. So that's for people that are in the States listening, you could do that. And yeah, we'll talk off air on what we can do to work
Sure.
together down here. But let's go back into the science.
Okay.
So the next generation is going to have EEG in the Neuradiant, perhaps because like the one that I've got from Dr. Lou Lim, who you've also had on the show, people, if you want to go and look up those podcasts, I've had him and Peter Adams on, and that's an 810. So the 1070 would be better for someone dealing with sort of major cognitive issues based on the current state of research. For traumatic brain injuries, maybe rescuing with the 810. Yeah,
Maybe,
because there's so many nuances to this whole red light. When I started looking into so many, even for just general health and skin health and all of that sort of thing, and collagen production and blah, you've got the nanometer wavelength, you've got the power output, you've got the fluence, you've got the, what do you call that synchronicity thing? Forgotten the correct term. Coherence, thank you. So there's an awful lot to the science, and there's so many applications. So there's so many science research that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
With
It's
dosing
very,
and
very,
all
very
of that.
important.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. We're really just getting started.
Yeah. And then when you listen to, but a lot of people would go, light, I'm not a plant. How would I be receiving light except through my eyes, which people get? But that's not true.
Your skin is a photoacceptor.
It's a photoacceptor. We have chromophores.
Every inch of your skin, every inch of our skin reacts to light.
Yeah. And so when we don't get, like, just going back a little bit, when we don't get enough sunlight, like for people that are living inside on screens that are emitting blue light all day, I just did an episode on that. That's problematic. We just from a general health point of view, get out in the sunshine, see the early morning light, circadian rhythms, all of that sort of jazz.
That's very important. I mean, I work with the people I work with. One of the most important things is get outside between dawn and 10:30 in the morning and get the sunlight on your face so that your brain produces the melatonin that you need that night in order to sleep right.
Yep. And gets that cortisol up in the morning.
But that dawn to 10:30, Jack Kruse's leptin hypothesis. I mean, knowing that that's what you got to do. And we were designed to do that for a couple of 100,000 years.
Yep.
And then that Nudnik Edison came along and
buggered up our circadian rhythms and made us.
What are you gonna do?
We did need it, but and then the whole incandescent light that we used to have that had more of the red spectrum in it, and now we've got these terrible LEDs that are really just the wrong light for us. So minimizing our exposure to the junk light.
Well, that's why I'm using the OT light I use the outlight on my desk to get the full range fluorescent at least.
Exactly, and
Just,
get outside.
yeah.
You know, like there's I've forgotten who it was, but somebody did a study where they took COVID patients out of the hospital for 15 minutes a day and got sunlight exposure onto their skin, and proved that that actually decreased the
Yep.
days of hospital and their severity of the COVID and so on. And then, you know, vitamin D, where was all that conversation during the whole none of it. You know, and there's some pretty basic stuff, and we are evolutionary animals, you know, like we need to, I think, respect where we came from
Oh,
and
absolutely.
developed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You would love having Sarah. You should definitely
Oh,
try to
yes,
get Sarah
please.
Turner.
Well, maybe
Yeah,
you can give
because
me an intro.
she loves all this stuff and she's extremely well versed in it. Yeah,
Yeah,
she'll be a great guest. She'll be a
I
great
think
guest.
because I think so many people are suffering from depression and mood disorders and things
Sure.
purely because of the wrong exposure and not enough the right exposure to sun. And then we're
Right.
all told to never go in the sun because it wrinkles you and causes damage. And cover yourself in sunscreen and cover yourself up the whole day. You know, it's just rubbish. It's putting
Everything in moderation, right?
yeah, midday sun, UV, you know, maybe not right bang smack in the middle of the day, but yeah, if you listen to Dr. Jack Cruz, yeah, he's interesting. He's got some interesting things, hasn't
Yes, he does. Yes, he
he?
does.
Marvin, you've
Ah,
been absolutely wonderful today. I'd like to thank you so much for the passion you bring to the work, the
happy.
mission that you're on to help millions and millions of people worldwide from now
Yep.
moving into the future, because it's just absolutely crucial. And I want to get more of the word out there that there are things that we can do to fight
Oh,
dementia and
absolutely.
Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of that traumatic brain injury. And this is where
And
we can start.
let alone prevention.
Oh gosh. And
I
that's
mean,
so simple
we've
at
already
that point.
shown, yeah, we've already shown that this type of intervention is preventative because we've shown that normal people who use the same protocol as we used with the people with dementia improve about the same amount on their functioning as the people with dementia improved on theirs. So it's already been published that
Yeah.
this really works and therefore can be spoken about as being preventative.
Yeah. And Alzheimer's does not pop up out of the blue. And as you know,
No,
Dr. Dale
no,
says it's like 10, 15 years in the making before you get even the mildest symptoms. So if we understand that, then we can do so
right.
much to prevent that: diet, exercise, all of that as well, you know.
Oh yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, if you take a picture of your retina with,
Mm.
for $50, you can take a picture of your retina at the where you put your chin on it in the little blue
Mm-hmm.
circle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You take that picture there, you can measure the amount of amyloid deposition on the
Wow.
retinal tissue.
Wow.
And you can predict the onset of dementia 15 years ahead of any kind of symptoms, just from the picture on your retina.
Why is not
I mean,
every eye doctor telling us this?
because every eye doctor doesn't know that because they didn't study with Dr. Tremp at Harvard.
Mm.
But Tom Lewis, Dr. Lewis, who runs something called realhealthclinics.com, Tom Lewis knows that because he studied with Dr. Tremp. And
Mm.
I'm friends with Tom Lewis.
Right. I've just put.
Yep. And Tom's been working with people on this level for years and years and years. And
Wow.
we work with Tom. We work with Anil Bajnath, who's our functional medicine longevity expert. And Anil knows this stuff extremely well and has a clinic in Maryland near Annapolis, the naval base. He's
Mm-hmm.
down there near Washington, D.C. And he's doing an advanced level program for people on increasing their longevity and making sure that they stay as healthy as possible,
Wow.
optimizing their health across all the parameters. Yeah, I mean, there are people doing very
Mm.
serious work, and we're thrilled. I'm thrilled to know them and be able to work with them closely.
And I need some introductions. We'll get them on the show and start sharing this.
Happy
Because
to.
I
Oh yeah,
wasn't
no,
aware of that one. I wasn't
yeah,
aware that we
uh,
could just, yeah, get a
yeah.
retinal, and hopefully we can do. Um,
I mean, you could do that. That's there before the QEEG is needed.
go
You
and do
know, you
that
can
and
go
see
get
that.
that. You can do that and know 15 years ahead
Wow.
what you need to be doing.
Especially for people with ApoE4, you know, or familial,
Absolutely.
you know, genetic
Absolutely.
things, that would be a
Right.
really good thing to do. So I have to ask, I'm going
Oh
to
yeah.
go and see the optometrist here and see if they do that and see if they can do that.
And
If they don't,
if they don't, they could.
yeah, and put it on their radar. You never know. Dr. Marvin, thank you so much for your time today. You're a wonderful human being. Thank you so much for all the work you do. And this
Great
won't
to
be the
be here.
time we'll be talking.
Take care.